I can't even fathom. Sir, take a seat. You're not going to believe this, people.
How are you?
Mike.
Nice to see you, Mike.
How are you, sir?
Good to see you.
Okay, you should
Mike
stand.
Lindell. Oh, my God. This is fantastic. We spoke to you on the phone recently.
Yeah.
We have your cutout.
We have your cutout that we keep here as inspiration. You're an inspirational guy.
Thank you.
And you have a book out.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. What are the odds?
Crack addict to CEO.
And I like how that double picture, you could
The
see.
one picture is when the drug dealers did an intervention. I was up 14 days.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
that's a transformation.
It's a fun crack.
And what a transformation. Now, your story is just astounding. It is against the odds. It is just a great rags to riches, not only financially, but spiritually.
Absolutely.
And you went from being a burden on people and society as a drug addict to helping in your community, helping in your country. It's just an amazing story, your life. It's so inspirational.
Yeah, thanks. You know, I was a cocaine addict, then a very functioning cocaine, then a crack addict. But I always was an entrepreneur in between. I had, different businesses I had tried. I was never afraid to jump in and try anything. And in the early 2000s, all of my cocaine addiction turned to crack.
Oh, my goodness.
And then about the same time I invented my pillow, I got a divine dream from God. And then I put everything I had into the pillow, all my, passion and everything. And when it took about a year to invent, and then when I did get it invented, I was turned down everywhere. Every box store, everyone, they said.
Did they just go, yeah, you can't reinvent the pillow? It's a pillow.
Well, I walked in, everyone said, you're not going to get a patent on a pillow. But I walk in a box store, and I said, how many would you like? I got the best pillow ever. And they're going, you need to leave now.
You were doing your own footwork at this time, trying to.
Absolutely. And then I ended up doing a kiosk. Someone said, do a kiosk. I said, how do you spell that?
Right.
And I
got to go to Moscow.
Yeah, I did this kiosk, and that even did, that didn't even do well. But one guy happened, the one day I happened to work it, he bought a pillow, and it was like a divine appointment that January. I had nothing left, poor little kids, losing the house, everything. And he called up, he says, are you the guy that invented this pillow from Minnesota? And they said, yeah. And he goes, well, I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot in there? And I said, sure, I'll try it. Well, I went in there, and I could actually, because I couldn't talk to people back then. I was very, insecure, fear of rejection, stuff that addicts have from.
Which is amazing now watching you, on
That's the transformation on the back of the book.
Yeah.
But I set up a booth where people couldn't come in the booth, and I could talk to them with a table in between. It gave me a sense of security.
Yeah.
And then I sold them pillows, and the next day they would come back and told me how they had changed their life. And that, for me, it made me feel good inside. It gave me some sense of self-worth. It wasn't about the money,
Right.
And then I went, so I ended up doing shows and fairs for about 6 or 7 years, and then lost everything, lost my house, and married, 20-year marriage. And
was that prior to the pillow?
No, it was a parallel track.
During.
I didn't quit till January 16, 2009, which was 11 years ago today.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And they,
awesome.
And what happened though is, in 2008, a couple things happened that was the big driver, kind of these seeds that were planted. One of them was my drug dealers did an intervention,
which is amazing when you think about that.
I was up 14 days, and I come out. I was downtown Minneapolis. I came out. They're all three standing there, the biggest dealers. I go, what's up? And they go, one guy said, Mike's been up for 14 days. We're all cutting him off. And so two of them left, and the one guy, he said, how many rocks you have left? And I had a couple of crack rocks left, and I ended up smoking them, and I waited him out. He finally fell asleep. So I headed down the streets of Minneapolis at 2:30 in the morning, and nobody would sell me crack. It was a complete shutout. So I came back upstairs, and this is what he said. He goes, how'd that work out for you? And I was so mad. He says, he goes, give me that phone. I'm going to take the picture. So he goes, you've been telling us for years about this book you're going to write. And he says, and you also been saying that this My Pillow is just a platform for God, and you're going to come back and help us all someday get out of this addiction, this lifestyle we're in. And I would tell that not just to them, but all my friends. I'd tell that to the judges, the cops.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna get straightened out.
Sure, pal. Get in the back.
Yeah.
I got a pillow.
Yeah, that's right. Right. and I,
Your cell?
but then then a couple things happened in 2008. My son moved out with a tear in his eyes, and I thought I was hiding it from him,
Oh.
And in December, my friend came to me that was my equal. And he had been straight 4 years. We had both done cocaine at the same time, both started crack at the same time, and he had quit 4 years earlier. I'd heard he had found the Lord, and I'm going, and I all of a sudden he showed up. He like beamed in from Star Trek or something. He's in my house, another house I'm losing. I go, Dick, what are you doing here? And he goes, the Lord led me here. He goes, what's going on? And I said, well, as long as you're here, is it boring? I said, is it? That was my first question. Right. I had questioned. He goes, no, man, it ain't boring. And all these questions I had that only he could answer. I'd been in treatment before, in secular treatment, where you do this treatment and they just shame you. Well, these counselors that never even did a drug. I wanted to hear from my friend who made it through.
Right.
And how did he get there?
Higher power.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm recovering addicts, alcoholics.
Right.
And I'm
this higher power is Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, on January 16, 2009, I didn't quit that. It was a month later.
Okay.
I knew. And here's that day. I knew that, they say, was that your bottom? Well, I made sure I spent every dime. I made sure that it'd be the greatest comeback ever. With God, all things are possible, right? Well, I sat there and I said, probably one of my first prayers to God, I go, okay, if this pillow is just a platform for, a bigger purpose, I said, I want to wake up in the morning and never have the desire again for crack, anything, cocaine, alcohol. And then, and so what that was to me was like two reels of my life, where here's one reel, and the next day, if I wouldn't have quit that day, I wouldn't have had my choice of reel, like a movie reel. You either second feature, you either say A or B. A was going to be gone forever, and that was my calling. So if I would have quit that day, B would have been the only option, right? Well, I woke up the next morning, it was like Groundhog Day. I'm going, something's different. And I looked in the mirror, and I even looked kind of okay, for being, doing drugs all these years. And so about the next, then all these divine things started happening. I mean, my company was taken. These guys were this betrayal, and it got to be I got the part of the company back, or doing home shows and fairs, and it was in 2011. I told my friends and family, let's do an infomercial. Because no box stores would still take us, and I said, so we pooled our money, and everyone said, you can't do it. Infomercials don't make money.
Yeah, right.
And I wanted to do it with a real audience, and just a friend of mine. And the night before then, we were doing our reads. This producer texts the other guy and said, this is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV.
Oh, my
He'll never
God.
make it. And they were right. The next day I came down to do my read, and I'm reading the teleprompter, and I'm scared to death because I couldn't talk to people. I had this inner wound. I couldn't talk to strangers because, addicts and all of us as people, addiction affects everyone, no matter how many forks you eat with. And that's in my book, too. It don't matter how many forks you eat with. This isn't just about homeless or whatever people. Addictions, everyone.
Coke made you quiet?
What's that?
Did Coke make you quiet?
No. Coke didn't make quiet. What it did, my insecurities at that time, I couldn't talk to people. I thought it was because I didn't like small talk. I was afraid to talk. You can't get rejected if you don't talk.
There you go.
You don't get. I lived in Las Vegas once for 2 months, never talked to a soul.
I was going to say, you seem intense if you were low.
Right. So just like I am now. I could talk on.
Obviously, yeah.
Crack, obviously, I'd be paranoid.
Well, sure.
But anyway, we did this infomercial. The next day, I'm walking in, or the next day, and the audience, I was scared to death. It took 1 hour to do one line, and I said, "Can you get rid of the teleprompter and bring in a table like I did at those shows?" So I had something between me and the people.
Oh, yeah.
And I was able to just do it naturally. And when it aired October 7, 2011, 3 o'clock in the morning, I was living in my sister's basement, and we exploded. We went from 10 employees to 540 days.
Wow.
That is amazing.
And then, but I'll tell you, when I'd quit everything, I had went to a faith-based treatment center to find out why I was an addict in the first place. And I went in there because I had been to secular treatment centers to get your license back and stuff in the 80s. Everybody did that to get out of going to jail. Oh, yeah, let's run into treatment. You go in there and they tell you how bad a person you are, and you hurt your kids. Your dog doesn't even like you. All these things. Well, these
nothing introspective at all.
Right.
Yeah.
But you get out of there, you feel more shame than when you went in.
Wow.
But I went into this faith-based treatment center. And the guy said the first thing they say, they go, well, what, I'm telling about all the drugs that we don't care what you did or what your bottom was. Tell us about your father. And I'm going, what did my father have? So I come from a divorced family at 7 years old when divorces weren't common. And I'll tell you what, they started talking about that childhood wounds and trauma, things
abandonment, and
exactly. These things that manifest into I'm not good enough, and then manifests into pain, real pain, and then the addiction takes over, where you can either mask it or you can escape. One of the two. And so, see, I don't believe addiction's a disease. I believe it's a mask for pain. And in order to be set free of it, is your faith-based treatment centers, because you need to get that foundation of God, of Jesus Christ in there. So when you come out of these centers, it's not going to be a country song gone backwards. Your dog's not going to like you right away, and your kids are,
When you have somebody with you too, a friend, absolutely.
And you come out, and that's why the faith-based treatment centers work and the secular centers don't. But I went through with my pillow in 2014. We were within 2 days of going under, even with that big explosion.
Wow.
And I met Kendra. She's here today, and she says, and she's telling me, she goes, I always wear my cross on TV. You guys seen that?
Oh yeah,
sure.
And she goes, well.
It's on your cutout.
Yeah, right. It's on my cutout. Well, I was missing something. Even though I believed in God, she goes, you don't have that personal relationship with Jesus. And I go, really? It shows? She didn't say that right away, but she said, your company, we started praying for my company because we were in 2 days of going under. Well, all those prayers manifested in it. It started getting bigger again, and we recovered from that. And today I have 1,600 employees. We've sold 46 million My Pillows.
46.
But
you're all in America too, aren't you?
What's that?
You're like a lot in America, right?
It's all U.S. and Canada, all the 46 million.
Wow, that's
we're in the
great.
other places, but we're sleeping better before that.
Right.
And but one of the things that happened, this not having that relationship, it got up to February 18th, 2017, which a lot of people don't know out there. That was the day I went into, actually, it was Operation Restore, where it was for veterans. Yeah. They get traumatized and stuff with that post-traumatic stress. Well, I went in there, and I'm going in there, I wanted what this relationship, right? Well, I went in there with hope, and I did a full surrender on February 18, 2017. That's only 2 years ago.
Right.
But one thing happened when I did that full surrender. I walked out of there where I could finally talk, and not only talk, I could speak to, I went to a U.S. Bank Stadium, 50,000 millennials, and I led them in prayer. I'm going, if you'd have told me that 10 years ago, that was my calling, my evangelist calling.
Telling me that now, I'm shocked.
Yeah. I'm going, that's the back of the book. I'm speaking to Liberty. Here's a guy that couldn't talk, and I speak to 20,000 kids at Liberty, and they all wanted hope. Everyone right now, addiction in our country.
That seems to be
addiction in our country is the biggest opportunity in history for the biggest revival ever.
Yeah.
Because back in the Great Depression, people were praying. Things have to be bad before we pray and stop and reach out. So down and out. Then you're praying, get me out of this, God, or whatever. Well, back then they were all praying for physical things.
Yeah, the guns to your head. And
Now they're exactly.
Yeah.
Now people, who's looking for hope more than addicts in their families? That addiction is an opportunity of a lifetime to bring God back into our schools, into our country, and because they're all looking for hope, and Jesus is the hope.
You're a tremendous optimist. I love that about you, and I've seen you have discussions with Donald Trump. And where do you see the country going? Because you watch the news, which half of it is
well, come on, it's more than half is fake.
I know it's just ridiculous, but it really seems like we're divided, and you hear it every day. How do you see this going in a couple of years?
Well, I don't believe we're as divided as you think. I think that's the fake news telling you that. Mm-hmm. I think because I go down the streets. I was out with my movie Unplanned in California. And, that was I don't know if you know about that movie. Well, it was an abortion. It was about abortion, very controversial subject. And there were protesters there. I went right amongst them. They're all asking me for my picture. And I go, you guys. I go. So you're not pro-choice? They go, we don't care. We're paid to protest here.
Oh, yeah.
And you get
that's the documentary about the woman who gave abortions, right?
And then she was over. Abby Johnson. She seen what was really going on at Planned Parenthood and left there.
Okay.
And now she's the biggest proactive pro-life person. We have the best pro-life president in history.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But what this country where it's going is what I'm saying. the far left, the craziness that's out there, that's this very small portion, and they still have the voice of the fake news.
They get they get
right.
the Hollywood maniacs.
They're brainwashed. But you know what? The rest, the other 80%, they're coming in because
you see these arenas packed.
Yeah,
for Donald Trump. It's
well,
amazing.
let me tell you, in 2016, I got to meet him. I didn't know anything about politics. I was a crack addict. I did a crack addict, right? Right, exactly. But you know what? I had a private meeting with him.
Wow.
He reached out to me, my Made in America. I walked in there, and it was just him and I, and we talked about, I said, I'm going to have a network to help addicts, in a couple of years. I was telling him about where I was a former crack addict. He looked at my cross, said, you always wear your cross, Mike. Are you a Christian? I said, yes, Mr. Trump. This is a divine appointment. And we talked about all the things that he was going to do. He loved that my pillow was made in the USA.
Yeah.
So I went all in with faith, and I was attacked. You know that my business, they went from an A+ to an F for the Better Business Bureau. They attacked me and tried to take down everything I could.
Yeah.
I got back to Minnesota, did a press release after that meeting. I didn't never, I could say I walking across the street and they'd all come up. They completely shut me out, and they badmouthed me, called me a racist and all this stuff. I'm going, what did I say? I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know a liberal from a conservative. I was a kid with a blank slate.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, you know what? So I found out politics plays such an important role in our daily lives. Mm-hmm. And anyone out there that can look around now we have proof of concept of this great president and administration, the things he's done for every demographic, blacks, Hispanics, right? The lowest unemployment ever. All these things that he's done with the consumer confidence now is an all-time high. Entrepreneurs like myself can go out and take chances again.
All businesses, guys that are just starting up, everything. It's such a dream come true to have a president that understands that, respects it. I've seen him talk about you a few times at his rallies, and he's got the utmost respect for you. I mean, with all the that you went through, to be able to put together this company, that's... it sounds corny, but the American dream. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Set the table and let us do what we do best, and we'll succeed. We don't need the government to be in our pockets and in our lives 24 hours a day.
Right. And he makes such great common sense, pragmatic decisions.
Yeah.
He had to pick a party. He had to pick a party. I'm sorry. When he went in, the Republicans that didn't even go for him, it was horrible.
They were calling him a liberal.
He was attacked by both parties, all the news, and now it's just like I say, he's got everything here, he's got most here. I predict it'll be the biggest landslide in history.
I think you're right.
And I'll tell you another thing. Minnesota, where I'm from, it hasn't voted, blue, or it's been blue since 1972. Yeah. Forget about it. It's all going to be red. It's beautiful.
It's amazing because when push comes to shove, you look around, are you doing better? Does it look like any of the options are going to make things even better than that? I watched the debates the other night, the Democratic debates. I was falling asleep, first of all. It was just boring. It was boring. I wish there could have been something entertaining to talk about on a show. But it was boring, and their ideas just sound so counterproductive to what Trump has done over the three.
And there's so much he's done that people don't realize. Let me tell you, what I'm doing with my book money, I'm starting the Landau Recovery Network, which I've been working on 2 years, is going to help addicts all over the country. Now listen to this: the stuff he's done just for that, like he signed the opiate bill. But there's 38 states that still have regulations that if you're going to be a counselor to counsel addicts, you had to go to school for 4 years. Well, really, I've forgotten more about addiction than they would know. An addict wants to see someone that's made it through that can they're the ones that need to be the counselor. Right. But he's rolled regulations and changed things so that you can actually, I can go out and do my ministry and not have to worry about being shut down, you know, because you're bringing, and I believe that on November 8th, 2016, God gave this country a second chance, gave us grace, so we have this time where we can bring this country back to God and bring it back to family values and bring it back to these things that everybody deserves a joyful life, and that's where our president's at. He really cares about our country and everyone in it.
Yeah, it really is amazing. That's many people don't see that,
right?
And they buy into the lies.
I don't get it.
Everything else. I mean,
people are angry and they want to hate people and they want to blame other. It's also why there's such an opioid problem in this country right now. It's like you said, it's a mask for pain. If people are in pain,
it's a mask for
hurt people. Hurt people.
There's a lot of blame going on when you have the president signing a trade deal the first phase of a trade deal with China on the same day that the Democrats are moving along with this impeachment garbage. It shows you who's really doing something for the country and who's trying to throw up as many roadblocks as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I said,
really
small
sad,
businesses love what's going on. We're teetering on a 30,000 point Dow.
Right.
The gas price. When was the last time anyone talked about gas prices?
Yeah.
They've been low because
he knows what he's
regulated
doing.
a lot of things that made us a world leader in power.
Everything. I have never in my life, I didn't know politics has such a big deal to do with your everyday life. I've learned something. I was remember a kid with a blank slate.
Yeah.
I can tell everyone out there, and if you're a business, that if you're afraid to go all in for the president, the way the things are now, because you live in fear and they threaten to boycott you and you move stations, I'll tell you right now, the busiest day at my pill is right now, the day we're in.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you another thing. I give my direct phone number to fake news stuff, the outlets, and I won't name the one outlet, but they called me up. This is when they were before the fake impeachment thing. It was the fake thing that there was a recession coming.
Right, the recession.
And so they called me up. They called me up in my house, and they go, I won't say it. They go, yeah, Mike, this is Al from XX, right? And he goes, I said, very left station, right? And he goes, and they go, so the president says the recession won't be coming because we're going to ruin it by saying it's fake news. I said, of course it is. Now, I talked for 40 minutes straight, didn't come up for air, and I got done. I said, you know what, Al? Even you can get a better job in this economy with another station that's real.
Yeah. I got to ask you a few things about the pillow itself. A fan of this show had sent me a My Pillow.
Mine as well.
I slept on it and loved it.
Man.
Loved it.
I have the travel.
Well, look how much energy you have now. Come on.
It's amazing. It really is great. I love it. One of the things I like doing, whether you're on your phone, and this sounds like a commercial, it's not. But if I'm on the phone or I'm watching TV, you can bend that thing around.
Oh, you can adjust it. That's the whole thing. Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. What did you change? It seems so easy. It's material and soft stuff inside. That's a pillow. What the heck? How could someone be so pompous to believe they could make a better pillow?
Right. Well, you know what? That just tells you it was a divine appointment, from God. I mean, that idea. I actually came up with the name My Pill. There were no My's. Wrote them all over the house one night, 2 a.m. One of my daughters, she's like 11 years old. She came upstairs. She goes, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I go, "I'm going to invent this pill. It's going to be called My Pill. It's going to change the world." She grabbed her glass of water. She goes, "That's really random," and went back downstairs. But it took about a year, and I kept getting these downloads. And one of the things is it's the adjustability of that patented pill. When you adjust it, it stays there. Sleep is all about. It's not about hardness or soft. It's about support or level. Keeping your neck straight at night, so it's not bent too high or too low, where you use your arm or have a sleep interruption. Mm-hmm. So if you reverse, if you're an entrepreneur or an inventor, you identify the problems and then reverse engineer and solve each one. So I wanted a pill that's, ask anything about my pill. I want one you can adjust. Here it is. I want one that stays cool. Here it is. I want one that'll last 10 years. Here it is. I want one you can wash and dry. They didn't have that back then. Here it is. I want one 100% made in the USA. Here it is. I want one that you pick anything and my pillow has it, and that's why it's changed the whole paradigm of the industry.
Yeah, wash or dry too is an awesome.
Yeah,
it really is.
So is it the fact, because I've done a little research on how that is. It looks like the fill is kind of torn apart.
It's 3 different sizes.
It interlock with each
interlocks.
other? Is that
so
how?
when you move it, it takes.
Fascinated.
When you move it,
the pillow.
When you move it, and I'll tell you a story of this. I actually learned a little bit about sleep the hard way. I would say on my infomercial, I'd say, you move it like this, it takes 6 pounds of pressure to hold in position. Your average head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. Now, here's what happened. About maybe a month into it, I get a call in my little call center I had at the time, and they go, "Mike, you got to take this call." And this lady gets on the phone and she says, "I don't think your pillow's going to work for me. My head only weighs 5.5 pounds." And I go, "Well," and I'm thinking this little Oompa Loompa head, right? And I said, "Well, how do you know your head weighs 5.5 pounds? That's impossible." And she says, "Well, I weighed it, and my husband and I weighed it." I said, "Like on a traditional bathroom scale?" And she said, "Yeah." I laid down, he read the dial. I said, "Well, we have a 60-day money-back guarantee. You can be my 5.5-pound head tester." Now, I got off the phone. I was so excited because I knew my theory was right. I said, "Somebody go buy me a bunch of scales." They run to the store, come back with these scales, and I start pulling people out and weighing heads.
Let me weigh your head.
They're all weighing heads, right? Every single head weighed light. Right? It all weighed between 5 and 6 pounds. They're supposed to weigh 10 to 12. Now we put a board up and everybody went up a higher than it. Every head weighed heavy. So what did that tell me? Unless you cut a head off and get a true weight?
Yeah.
Now, what's happening
that could interfere with sales.
Right.
Start lopping heads off.
But what happened was your neck muscles are working overtime to keep your neck straight. So if you got a down pillow and it goes down, and now you're using your arm, we've all been there. Your arm goes to sleep. Or if you got a pillow that's too high, then it's too high. Your neck is too keep it down. So it was that theory. I was so excited. I go, wow! It opened up the theory of where sleep comes
when
from.
Edison, on that filament.
That's
there
right.
You go.
It's so simple. You got 8 cervical nerves in your neck.
In a patent office.
Yeah,
straight. Well, my friends all laughed at me back then. They said, "What? Mike's going to invent a pillow. What are you on crack?" I go, "Yeah."
Quite frankly, I think
I rode on a bunch of pillows.
and you've opened it up. I see your mattress toppers and sheets.
I have that.
with the cotton that comes from Giza. Love that.
Yeah.
I love your commercial.
I'm allergic to feathers.
Giza.
Right, yeah. Well,
I know everything.
And what people don't know is you can't make sheets in the United States anymore. There's no weavers or spinners. So I went overseas, found the best cotton in the world, and had made. As long as I got to go get it, I just will make it the best.
And it really is something. You've helped me sleep. That's
yes, me too.
It's fantastic. And the book. Once again, let's.
It's What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO. And it's going to help so many people.
I don't doubt it.
And the money, I even bought my own paper. I published it, self-published. So I bought my own paper because I want the money to go to the kingdom. I want to get this. They help my whole revival, bringing people, this country back to God, bringing our base. What we were here for. Do you know? In a prison in fact, that's where we launched the book. We went in the prison. I talked to the prisoners. The inmates. It was an Oklahoma prison. I went there with my friend Jack Brewer, and we went in there and talk to those guys. They've got the wounds where addiction comes from, and you showed them the hope, and this is what this country needs.
Where do you think? Because I see a lot of things on the news and watching videos online and whatnot, and we do seem to be a little broken as a country. Where do you have any ideas on how and when this happened? Because there are certain things that are just way out of bounds that now are just being taken as business as usual. We're told to be tolerant. We're told to accept these things. And I'm fine. I'm very tolerant and accepting. But there are certain things you just go, yeah, that isn't quite right.
Well, let me tell you, and I can tell you this from experience, but they ask me all the time, what's the best thing the president's done so far? He smashed political correctness, okay? I mean, nothing else could have got done. And let me tell you, when I came out of crack addiction and came out of all my addictions in 2009, now imagine a guy that never voted, never knew any, I didn't know a Republican from a Democrat, a liberal from a conservative. I had no clue. I never voted. In Minnesota, I think I talked about maybe voting for Jesse Ventura that time, But that was it. When I came out of that, it was like coming out of someone that was in a coma for all them years, and I seen a president giving away money to an evil empire. All my friends were unemployed. All this stuff where people are playing softball and stuff, and they're not even given the first place trophy. They all get the participation. I go, what happened? Kids are riding around with helmets. It's crazy stuff going on. We used to drink out of garden hoses, and then he started selling us bottled water. But it was all these bad things. All my friends were unemployed. Everyone was losing their houses, and things had just changed. I'm going, what happened? While I was gone, for a few years. There. Well, then I see, God puts me in a position with this amazing platform and these divine appointments with all these different people, right up to the president. Do you know when I was the president invited me to the White House for the manufacturing summit for the U.S. Manufacturing USA.
Yep.
Now, when I was on there on TV. And I'm sitting right next to him on TV. All my friends that were still on drugs are going, Jesus is real. There is no way Mike Lindell, this crack addict, is sitting in the White House. This is impossible, you know.
The White House.
And these things that are happening now that are changing, we're in the best changes ever.
It is. I agree.
If you shut off that fake news and you shut that up and just look around you and going, wow, you have iPhones, we're all connected, people are, you know, you're living, the wages are going up. People are jockeying for better positions now. They're getting, so a lot of places, they're only working 4-day work weeks now.
Yeah.
These things, you know, and it's higher prices, higher wages, and people
Record
have careers
sales
now.
For the holidays this
consumer confidence
this year. Consumer
we're in the best times ever, and then you say, well, why are people still dying, you know, of addiction and have addiction? Because they need hope. Spiritual hope. They've got, now you get the physical things are coming back, but you've lost something that was taken out of our schools a few decades ago. And when that was taken out and you took out the family values, why do you think the fatherlessness in this country, you know, you go to a prison, there's a prison that they did a poll 2 years ago. How many in that prison, these are felons now, okay, not county jail, prisons.
Right.
How many were both parents, they got married, and said, hey, let's plan our kid, you know, like in the Bible, they planned to have the kid. We're still married while they were in that prison.
Oh, probably
zero.
Zero. Now, if you go down to county jail level, the number goes up, and if you've never been incarcerated and everything wrong, it goes up even more.
Sure.
But you can almost do a correlation that they had the old family, the mother, the father that didn't divorce, that went, you know, your biblical principles and God's, you know, they had the foundation set early on. We had this generation that was going down a bad path. And that's what's getting healed now. But in order to get healed, you're still got that last, and we're going to hear it for the next, you know, but after this next election, you imagine what's going to be done the next 4 years to have it. It's just
you were a
be
product
amazing.
of that. Too, though. You were a product of divorce at a young age.
Right,
so
that's why, what do you think? Look at this, hello. Come on.
Yeah, you're not.
That's back when divorces weren't common. I was the only kid in my school was from a divorce family.
Yeah.
Look at, you know, and you can take.
Yeah, you're not blaming them. You're saying that's part of it.
You ever said it's any wound from childhood? You know, veterans, they say, oh, they got traumatized over there. Yes, they did. But they had wounds from childhood. This magnifies what they had. Okay. Magnifies. That's why you get the post-traumatic stress. And you get things that happen in childhood are so important. A father figure is so important.
Yeah.
These things that they're, you know, that those roots or whatever that were taken away and that were changed, you know, with this society that went down a bad path. And now you got to see the pockets of hope, and there is so much hope, and it's just going to be amazing. Imagine what this president could have done with it if he'd have had everybody helping him.
Oh my God!
That's the problem. Is everybody wants to win something? It's not going to help anybody.
Now, when he first got elected and did have the House,
that's what I'm saying. That was a shame,
and it was a shame but he didn't know. Like, this guy wasn't a politician his whole life. He doesn't know. You're all of a sudden the president. I don't even think he realized the power he had to do things. And the Republican House at that time, they didn't like
have
him
his
either.
back. No, they didn't have his back. A bad Republican. And see, for me, I want everyone out there to know that for me, when they say, oh, Mike's gotten all political. No, let me tell you, the last election, I had all these Republicans come to me to do donor things for him because I would draw people in.
Sure.
One gal called me from New York City. And she goes, Mike, can you do a donor event for me too? I go, absolutely not. You're pro-choice. And she goes, well, I'm kind of right in the middle. I go, there is no middle.
There is no middle.
No middle. And I said, here would be the headlines. Mike Lindell goes against his Christian values to back a Republican.
Right.
It ain't happening.
Right.
It's not happening.
You know the bear traps that are out there.
And I'll tell you, they did a thing on, I won't even say it because I don't want people watching it because it was written by Steve Colbert and the left. Okay. It's a very big show on Showtime. Well, they got me as a cartoon character in there, and there's all these cartoons. I'm the only non-politician. I'm carrying around my pillow. Anyway, all the Democrats are in a room, and they go, what are we going to do with Mike Lindell? And the other one goes, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, didn't you hear? He ruined half of his brain when he was on crack, and now he has no realization of any self-doubt. You know, so in other words, I'm not changing. When they go to boycott me now and stuff, I go, you know what they say, the Twitter people, the trolls, they go, don't boycott Mike Lindell. He'll double his ads. We see enough of that guy. because, and I want to say all the businesses
Great,
out there,
though. Oh, I love it.
All the Christians, who was the most persecuted over here was that. I mean, you talk about political correctness, it was crazy, the stuff that was going on. And it's like, who's the most you can do? Attack any Christian, and it's okay. But everyone else, boy, you can't talk bad about them.
Everything, yeah.
Are you kidding me? I mean, it's horrific. And for me, I want to tell any business people out there, don't be afraid of fear now. And we just did a big evangelical event for Donald Trump. He did it, and we did it in Florida, in Miami. It was thousands of people. It was like a rally, but it was all the pastors. I was there. It was amazing. We have a president that does more praying before he makes decisions than any president in history, and he's surrounded himself by people of faith, and he's the best pro-life president ever in history. I mean, all these things, he cares, and he's doing what's morally right to making decisions. And these guys got a gift too. He takes it all in, and there's the answer.
So, from a spiritual standpoint, there does seem to be this road to Sodom and Gomorrah going on in this country to a point. So to pull those reins back and the way you were talking earlier, where Trump really ripped the lid off of everything. Mainstream media, Washington, Hollywood. We all got to look inside, and that isn't going to wash anymore. They can't pull that same garbage.
And you know what's going to happen? I'm going to tell one more story here about 2016. That election in 2016. Now, I flew out to Hollywood. I had to do a bit in this movie thing, okay? And I'm there, and I didn't know. Like I say, I didn't know anything about politics. I just met Donald Trump. I thought, this guy's going to be the greatest president in history. And I talked to his employees, and they go, he's the best boss ever. It was like talking to, the best guys. I'm going, really? He's that good? Oh, yeah. Well, now I fly out to Hollywood, right? So I'm out there, and I'm doing this, 40 of them in the room, okay, right in the heart of Hollywood. And we're doing this film, and I'm up there, and I'm kind of showing, doing that. Like, remember the old subliminal thing on Saturday Night? I go, so he goes like this, vote Trump. He goes like this, vote Trump. And I'm doing that, and nobody laughed, right?
Oh, come on.
Nobody laughed, and I kept doing it. I didn't care, and I'm going, what's wrong with these people? I didn't even put two and two together that they're all, crazy laugh. Well, anyway, throughout the day, here's what happened. Throughout the day, let's say there's 40 of them. 39 of them came up to me and said, I'm really voting for Donald Trump, but I can't tell anybody.
That's something, yeah.
One person controlled the whole group because the other ones lived in fear to be able to speak out and go, if I went to you, hey, I'm going to vote Trump. Hey, we got one over here. And they were afraid of fear. But you know what? That's changing. Now, people are stepping up. Businesses better step up. You're a business owner. You better speak it out. I did in my pillow. Look at Phil Robertson from Duck Dynasty. They attacked him, and he can say anything he wants now as long as it's in the Bible. I was with him the other day, and I said, you know what? I said us that stood our ground as business owners and stuff, that stood our ground. You know what? We can go out there and say anything we want, and they'll go, "Oh, that's just Mike."
Right? You get to a point.
We don't get to attack anymore. I can go and talk about Jesus or Donald Trump on any station.
Well, because you didn't apologize. That's what they want.
Absolutely.
If you apologize, then they own you.
Yeah, they own
you. Can't apologize.
I'm going, no, I believe what I believe.
Exactly.
That's it. It's amazing because people were petrified to speak their mind.
Right.
And you got like, well, there is a First Amendment, but not for this. It's like, there's no but.
There's no but.
There's a First Amendment. It's not this arbitrary thing that you decide who can say what to whom. And
absolutely.
And I love that about this country is that you can because they go, oh well, the First Amendment isn't for Nazis. It's like, well, it is. The protected speech is the speech that is the most offensive and the most horrible. You don't have to protect nice speech. People don't care.
You don't have to like it. That's the point.
Right. You don't have to like it.
I like the ones when they'll go, one of the Fox guys will say something, and they'll go boycott Mike Lindell and My Pillow, because they'll boycott anyone that's on their thing.
Sure, on the list.
All of these companies then will go, oh, we got to leave. We got to go out there, but they're going to boycott us. Well, you know what I tell people that write these boycott things, it hurts the consumer, number one. Because when you move, they raise the price of that because everyone's trying to scramble over these spots that are left. But the other thing I tell them, I said, you know what? I advertise on all the stations, and even ones that badmouth me directly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and go, so why should I leave this one? You're telling me that I can't have my ad here?
Yeah.
I can't over here on your station?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. How does the funny byproduct of your success is fame and notoriety and recognition?
Right.
How is that? I'm sure people treat you really nicely out there.
100%. I've never, and I'm not kidding, in public, they'll come out to me. I don't care who it is. They go, the first thing they say to me, it's not about pillow anymore. The number one thing is, I've heard your story of transformation from finding God, finding Jesus, and from a crack addict to where you're at. Second thing is, thank you for having our presidents back. Tell them we're praying for him. Third thing is the pillow. That means a lot to me. But let me tell you there's two things that happened that I look back now, and they were devastating at the time. After I went all in for the president, the Better Business Bureau in Minnesota, that's where it all started.
I remember that.
They lowered my rating from an A+ to an F. I was in Canada doing a shopping channel. It was January 2nd, 2017, and I get my Twitter, my Facebook, everything's blowing up. I'm getting texts. Well, here they went and did a national press release, lowered from an A+ to an F because they said I ran my ads too long.
Right.
And then the same day my dad went in the hospital for 6 months, I get off the plane and every single news media in the country, and they badmouthed me. They took snippets out of what I said. But one thing happened. If you look it up, it was called the Bloomberg article. It was a Bloomberg magazine. This guy had been doing. I had never been in a magazine before. He did this for 5 months. He had been doing a story on me, kind of like my book here. It was perfect timing. That article came out 3 days later. He rushed it to get out there so people knew my story and knew where I come from. So everyone in this country that had seen the BBB do this, now they turned on the BBB.
Right, you're like, hey, you sons
and
of
they attacked them.
Yeah,
and it was,
of course.
and that brought my fame up. Now I couldn't even walk in Canada. They're going, yeah, you're that guy on TV that they attacked. It was like a hero status that God put that out there at that time. The timing was the best in history. Then when the president did a shout out, he did a shout out in Fargo in 2000. It was on my birthday in 2017, I believe it was. So he does this shout out. I was at the rally, but I didn't know he was going to.
I remember that. Yeah.
It was a 1 minute shout out.
Yeah.
And here's what happened there. That was like a shot heard around the world. No president ever done that. It went everywhere. I was getting texts from Israel and Australia going, wow, we heard. Yeah. Everybody heard that, right? Because it was so, unprecedented. Well, anyway, about a month later, I was with the president, and I said, Mr. President, I want to thank you for that shout out, but I got to tell you what happened. The next morning, I got a call from another bad media outlet, and they go, yeah, Mike, this is Jim from whatever, Times, I'll say Times. And he goes, the president did that shout out for you. You must have sold a lot of pillows. You know what the headline's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And I said, no, you're the president. I go, and here's what I told him, Mr. President. I said, let me tell you, Jim, it wasn't about selling pillows. He said he uses the pillow, that it's a good pillow, but it was about me being a great American USA businessman and being a great ad buyer. And I said, you know what that did, Jim? It raised my popularity tenfold. So now I can go out and speak out like I did at U.S. Bank Stadium to 50,000 millennials for Jesus. The president looked at me and goes, what did you say then? I said, he hung up and killed the story. Those two things brought it up to where I have a platform. Otherwise, this book could just be some guy quit cracking, whatever.
Right.
But this is much more. Nobody goes like that, so it has to be.
You're a pop culture guy, too.
Yeah, you are.
Little kids think it's like
funny.
the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Right.
And it's the anomaly of the infomercial, because every time you hear that, it either breaks even or makes a little bit. So I've never branded. I've never spent a dime on branding.
Wow, yeah.
I look at every spot like it's my only spot. I look at every customer like it's my only customer. And by doing that, if you see, anytime you see it, it's like, like I say, we've never branded. Well, that's given the opportunity. I've been on TV now 2.6 million times. So it's like,
that's nuts.
If you'd told me that, I would have said that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the platform that God gave me. So now I can take it and use it for good.
Yeah.
To be able to say, hey, I met this president. He's the best.
Yeah.
Or I did, or this addiction. Here's how we fix it. Or this is a good platform or whatever. And until I break that trust with the people,
right,
it's going to stay there.
Like you said, it did turn out to be a vehicle, a platform.
It was absolutely
for a bigger thing. in your life and for everybody.
Yeah, it's continuing to grow.
Really cool.
It really is.
Yeah,
And I really believe because of the platform and the things the president done, like when he signed the opiate bill and the regulations he put back, I believe we can just wipe out addiction.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Was the medicine cabinet your idea?
Yeah, it was ours. It was
like Chuck McCann used to do the High Guy commercials. Was that inspired by that?
And you know
High
what?
Guy.
When we opened that, a lot of that was ad lib. I open up, I go, I knew you would. And now we had nothing.
I knew you was great.
We had nothing. That was a very expensive commercial. And we know when I was over holding the pillow down.
Yeah.
And I go, you're going to wake up in the morning.
Everyone comments on the
Now, people are doing that to me for months.
Your neck goes,
But that was ad lib. We had nothing to match that scene.
You could tell because you're kind of laughing.
And I said, well, there was one spot where I said, just roll the cameras. And we did, and it was one cut from that. It was all natural.
Yeah,
everything was exactly the
same.
People like what's real.
They like real.
They like true. They like
a real guy. A real guy. We're running out of time here. I got to talk about Steven Singer, but. Mike, thanks so much.
Yeah, it was
thanks for having
amazing.
Me,
Thanks for coming. This is great.
It's the only place they let me just ramble on. I've learned how to talk now. Hey, I've learned how to talk.
We talk about you all the time. We love your.
Remember that fear of rejection? Well, now I'm right out.
Yeah. Yeah, take a picture or sign the cutout, and I'll talk about Steven Singer, and then we'll take a picture.